Okay. Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, the video game 100% part 12. So we're gonna read more fact cards. We probably have like 30 or 40 fucking more. But we're doing it. Hell to the yeah. Excuse me.
Hey, that's my cousin. Whoa. That's my cousin. Magic time. That's my cousin. That's my cousin.
Alrighty. Oh, wait, I don't want to play that. I want to go to the bonus features. Bonus. Gallery. So we did all of the fact card 1 fact cards. Alright, I think we can finish up the fact cards 2 list. And we still have all of the fact cards 3 list. We'll see how far we get. Okay.
You don't sound too enthused yet.
There's a lot of reading. Alright. So we got satellite, I think. And some stuff. For over 30 years, the Pioneer 10 spacecraft was For over 30 years, the Pioneer 10 spacecraft sent photographs and scientific information back to Earth. Launched March 2nd, 1972, it reached speeds of 52,100 kilometers per hour on its flight to Jupiter, or 32,400 miles per hour, making it the fastest human-made object ever. After completing an investigation of Jupiter, Pioneer 10 continued its journey to the outer regions of the solar system, studying solar wind and cosmic rays. Yeah, that's what it studied. Having gone further into space than any other object sent from Earth. That's also just one sentence. I keep reading them as if there's going to continue, but it's okay. Pioneer's last weak signal was received on January 22nd, 2003, from approximately 12.2 billion kilometers, 7.6 billion miles from Earth. NASA's engineers reported that Pioneer 10's radioisotope powder. Radioisotope powder. That sounds delicious. NASA engineers reported that Pioneer 10's radioisotope power source had degraded and was not likely to allow future transmissions. As it drifts into interstellar space, Pioneer 10 will continue to carry a plaque designed to inform intelligent life that may find it about the spacecraft and its origins. The prototype spacecraft was displayed here The prototype spacecraft displayed here was constructed for NASA by TRW Incorporated. Nice. Pioneer 10. Okay. Oh, look at that motherfucker. Look at that giant jet engine boy. The F1 engine, with 1.5 million pounds of thrust, was the power plant for the first stage of the 363-foot-long Saturn V launch vehicle that took the first astronauts to the moon for 6 successful landing missions between 1969 and 1972 in the Project Apollo program. The first stage of the Saturn V had 5 F1s for a total liftoff thrust of 7.5 million pounds. The fully fueled Saturn V weighed 6.1 million pounds. The F1 used RP-1, a type of kerosene, and liquid oxygen as the propellants. The F1's 2,500-pound turbo pump pumped in the propellants at 42,500 gallons per minute. This engine was constructed in 1963 by the Rocketdyne division of Rockwell International and underwent 4 start tests totaling 192.6 seconds. I don't know what that means. The engine was donated to the Smithsonian in 1970 by the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. Look at that boy. How did it turn out? Is it sticking?
Turn all the way.
Oh, nice. Ooh, another satellite type thing. This satellite is the heart of a space-based communication system called Iridium. Conceived, designed, and built by Motorola, the Iridium system provides wireless mobile communications through a network of 66 satellites in polar low Earth orbits. Inaugurated in November 1998 under the auspices of Iridium LLC, this complex space system allowed callers using handheld mobile phones and pagers to communicate anywhere in the world. A first in the history of telephony. Telephony. As of late 2006, the system is still in operation. That's funny. That's just a funny sentence to read. As of late 2006, the system is still in operation. Designed primarily for commercial communications, the U.S. government has used Iridium extensively in the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. This artifact was the first prototype satellite Motorola built for Iridium, and it includes engineering and flight components. The company donated it to the museum in 1998. War satellites. I mean, it was used for lots of stuff. People paging each other and shit. Pagers. At least it's good to know that as of 19 years ago, it was still in operation. The Ranger spacecraft gave... Oh, yeah, here. I didn't show the picture. The Ranger spacecraft gave scientists their first close look at the lunar surface. 9 Rangers were launched from 1961 through 1965. The first attempts failed, but beginning in 1964, Rangers 7, 8, and 9 successfully completed their 65-hour journeys to the moon by transmitting television pictures of the lunar surface during the final minutes until their impact there. These pictures revealed details that could not be seen through telescopes on Earth. Each Ranger spacecraft had 6 cameras on board. The cameras were fundamentally the same, with differences in exposure times, fields of view, lenses, and scan rates. The images provided better resolution than was available from Earth-based views by a factor of 1,000. These highly detailed images aided Apollo planners in locating landing sites. The spacecraft on exhibit is a replica of the final 3 Ranger spacecraft. It is made of parts from Ranger test vehicles and was transferred from NASA to the museum in 1977. Bruh. Nice. Oh man, look at that. If you want, you could maybe try to hang it off of that thing you put up there. Oh, has it got a suction cup and everything?
See if any sun hits the room.
Sweet. It's cute. Good job. High five.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You did good, babe. It was good. Lunar Orbiter was the spacecraft that mapped the moon in preparation for the Apollo landings. It was built for NASA's Langley Research Center by Boeing and launched to the moon on an Atlas Agena rocket. Atlas Agena? It drew electrical power from four solar cell arrays that provided a maximum of 450 watts. That's pretty funny. The rocket motor on the top was used for course corrections, while a number of cold gas jets provided altitude control. Guidance was maintained by both an internal reference system consisting of 3-axis gyros and a celestial reference system with sun and canopus sensors. Because the Lunar Orbiter spacecraft would pass behind the moon during every orbit, it carried a computer that could accept and carry out commands for up to 16 hours of automatic sequenced operations. A total of 5 lunar orbiters were flown to the moon. The first 3 orbited around the moon's equator and provided detailed photographic coverage of the primary Apollo landing sites, including stereo images. Because of the success of these earlier missions, the final 2 lunar orbiters were placed into a polar orbit so that virtually the entire surface of the moon was mapped. In addition to images of the Apollo landing sites, Lunar Orbiter provided many breathtaking photographs, including features on the far side. An oblique view of the crater Copernicus taken by Lunar Orbiter II, frame H-164, was dubbed the picture of the century by the news media. The photographic system on board Lunar Orbiter was particularly unique. Instead of sending television pictures back to Earth as electrical signals, Lunar Orbiter took actual photographs, developed them on board, and then scanned them using a special photoelectric system. For this reason, scientists referred to the Lunar Orbiter as the flying drugstore, due to the possibility that radiation in space would fog photographic film. A slow-speed film was used. This required the spacecraft to move slightly as its shutters were open to prevent blurring. The resulting images were of an exceptional quality and provided resolutions of up to 3 feet from an altitude of 30 nautical miles. Wow. In addition to the near global photographic coverage of the moon, Lunar Orbiter provided additional information that aided Apollo. Sensors on board indicated that radiation levels near the moon would pose no danger to the astronauts. Analysis of the spacecraft orbits found evidence of gravity perturbations, which suggested that the moon was not gravitationally uniform. Instead, it appeared as if buried concentrations of mass were under the mare deposits. By discovering and defining these mascons, Lunar Orbiter made it possible for Apollo missions to conduct highly accurate landings and precision rendezvous. After depleting their film supplies, all 5 lunar orbiters were purposefully crashed onto the moon to prevent their radio transmitters from interfering from future spacecraft. I know, right?
Purposely crashed. $8 million.
I know, right? For real. Look at that boy. Alright. Museum weed.
Oh, I heard that's the good stuff.
It'll take you back, man.
Blast off.
Right?
Since it's on in space.
Right? Ow. The artifact in the collection is an engineering model S-10 used for thermal control tests. It was reconfigured to represent a flight model of Surveyor 3 or later, since it was the first to have a scoop and cloth surface sampler. After receipt in 1968, it was displayed in Smithsonian's Art and Industries building and then was moved to its present location in Gallery 112, Lunar Exploration Vehicles, in 1976. The The Surveyor series was designed to carry out soft landings on the moon and provide data about its surface and possible atmosphere. These were the first U.S. probes to soft land on the moon. Once landed, they provided detailed pictures of the surface by means of a TV camera carried on each of the spacecraft. Later, surveyors carried the instrumented soil mechanics surface scoop seen on the artifact. These were used to study the mechanical properties of lunar soil. Some of the spacecraft were also equipped to perform simple chemical analysis on lunar soil by means of alpha particle scattering. There were 7 Surveyor launches starting in May 1966, all launched by the Atlas Centaur rocket. All but 2 successfully achieved program goals, returning over 88,000 high-resolution photographs and invaluable detailed data on the nature and strength of the lunar surface. Wowza. Alright. Look at that boy. For exploration of Mars, Viking represented the culmination of a series of exploratory missions that had begun in 1964 with Mariner 4 and continued with Mariner 6 and Mariner 7 flybys in 1969 and a Mariner 9 orbital mission in 1971 and 1972. The Viking mission used 2 identical spacecraft, each consisting of a lander and an orbiter. Launched on the 20th of August 1975 from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, Viking 1 spent nearly a year cruising to Mars, placed an orbiter in operation around the planet, and landed on the 20th of July 1976 on the Chrysi Planitia? The Chrysi Planitia? I don't know. Golden Plains. Viking 2 was launched on the 9th of September 1975 and landed on the 3rd of September 1976. The Viking project's primary mission ended on the 15th of November 1976, 11 days before Mars's superior conjunction, its passage behind the sun. Although the Viking spacecraft continued to operate for 6 years after first reaching Mars. The last transmission from the planet reached Earth on the 11th of November 1982. While Viking 1 and 2 were on Mars, this third vehicle was used on Earth to simulate their behavior and to test their responses to radio commands. Earlier, it had been used to demonstrate that the landers could survive the stresses that they would encounter during the mission. NASA transferred this artifact to the museum in 1979. Bruh. Nice. Alright, fact cards 2 list down. Now we just have fact cards 3 list. We're doing it. Or something. Jupiter. Average distance from Sun. 778,300 kilometers. Oh wait, no. Is that another comma? I'm high. What?
Need help?
How am I supposed to read this? I think they just forgot a 0. I think they just forgot a 0 at the end there. So 700. Well, it's 2 commas though. So I think they just forgot a 0 there, especially because that one has another 0 there.
Yeah.
So 778,300,000 kilometers, or 483,600,000 miles. That's the average distance from the sun for Jupiter. Length of year, 11.9 Earth years. Rotation period, 9.8 hours. Average orbital velocity, 13.1 kilometers per second, or 8.1 miles per second. Inclination of axis, 35 inch diameter, 142,800 kilometers, or 88,700 miles. Okay. Number of satellites, at least 63. Diameter 11.3 times Earth's. Average distance from Sun 5.2 times Earth's. So they have two lists of average distance from Sun. There's the average distance from the Sun in kilometers or miles, but then at the very end of the list there's also just how much it is compared to Earth's, which is funny. Mass 318 times Earth's. Density 0.24 times Earth's. Bruh. Cool. Here, let's I'll read another planet here in a second. Let's look at this jar. Okay, look at that. I made this jar all of cross. If you don't repent, you will be lost. These words were inscribed by hand across the top of this alkaline glazed stoneware storage jar by its maker, David Drake, a slave at Lewis Miles Plantation Pottery in the Edgefield district of South Carolina. Drake's two-line poems about religion, love, and life proclaimed his ability to read and write, skills that were often forbidden among slaves. About 20 of his poem jars are known to survive, though he likely made many more. Neat. David Drake. There's a shovel. In 1838, John Deere built this plow with a revolutionary cast iron mold board and a steel plowshare and sold it to Joseph Brierton. In 1901, John Deere's son, Charles H. Deere, bought it back and in 1938 donated it to the Smithsonian Institution. This is one of three steel shared plows built in 1838 and is substantially identical to the original that Deere built in 1837. Unlike cast iron shares that quickly dulled on the unlike cast iron shares that quickly dulled on the tough roots of prairie grass, Deere's polished mold board and steel share easily cut through the sod and held its sharpness. From his small shop in Grand Detour, Illinois, John Deere's reputation for building superior plows spread. By the 1850s, his plows incorporated steel mold boards and shares and were called the singing plows because of the whir they made cutting through the sod. Ultimately, John Deere built a highly successful business that remained in his family hands until 1982. Okay. Look at that thing. This is the fucking just have like armchairs. That's funny. In the spring and summer of 1903, H. Nelson Jackson completed the first transcontinental automobile trip in this car. Jackson, a physician from Burlington, Vermont, was on vacation in San Francisco and made a bet that a car could endure the grueling trip through the rugged West, where there were virtually no roads, and across the East in less than 90 days. He purchased a slightly used Winston touring car, hired mechanic Sewell Crocker to accompany him, stocked up on supplies, and took off for New York City. The trip took 64 days, including breakdowns, delays, while waiting for parts to arrive, and hoisting the Winton up and over rocky terrain and mud holes. Their much publicized journey caused people to think about the possibilities of long-distance auto travel, and think of cars as an alternative to railroads. Saturn. Average distance from the Sun, 1,427,000 kilometers. Length, I know, right? Length of the year, 29.5 Earth years. Rotation period 10.7 hours. Average orbital velocity 9.7 kilometers per second or 6 miles per second. Inclination of axis 29 degrees. Oh, the other one was a degrees sign, I think. Diameter 120,000 kilometers or 74,500 miles. Number of satellites at least 60. Diameter 9.5 times Earth's. Average distance from Sun 9.5 times Earth's. Mass 95 times Earth's. And density 0.13 times Earth's. Wong. Okay. Look at that boy. Capital Traction Company. The American Car Company of St. Louis, Missouri built this four-wheel electric motor car. Oh, wait, built this four-wheel electric motor car. Built this four-wheel electric motor cars built for Capital Traction Company of Washington, D.C. Okay. The car was one of 16 and was designated number 303 and assigned to the 7th Street Line, which ran from the wharves to Boundary, now Florida Avenue. Because overhead wires were not permitted in the District of Columbia, an underground conduit system at the track's center was employed for electrical collection. Washington was one of the few cities in the world to use an underground conduit. The streetcar, therefore, was an extension affixed to the underside of the car. Has an extension affixed to the underside of the car that connected with an electrical conduit between the trolley tracks. The streetcar is one of 16 four-wheel electric-powered cars made for the Capital Traction Company of Washington, D.C. in 1898. First Washington streetcars were horse-drawn and entered service in 1862. Electric streetcars appeared in 1888, and by the turn of the century, nearly 200 miles of line were in operation. Crazy. Well, sweet. Guess what we're gonna do, guys? Next time we're gonna read the rest of the fact cards and then check out the trivia game. But until then, have a good one.